I picked up 10 brutally simple gun tricks that took my shooting from sloppy to dialed in, and none of them cost a fortune. Just the right technique and a little practice. I beat them up at the range until they worked under stress, so you don't waste ammo chasing gimmicks. I'm Luke from Line 45, and today I want you to lock in, try these now, and watch your hits stack. Before we dive in, do me a solid. Smash that subscribe, tap the bell, hit all the dang buttons down there. You don't gotta, but it keeps this train rolling and lets me crank out more of this wild gun talk for you all. Alright, enough of that. Let's get back to it. Grip that stops flinching. Grip first, or everything else turns into wasted ammo. I get my firing hand as high as it'll go on the backstrap with the web of my hand buried under the beaver tail. That puts the bore closer to my arm, so the gun flips less and returns faster. I crush front to back with the firing hand just enough to keep the sight steady, then I stack the support hand hard side to side. Think 40% firing hand, 60% support hand. Thumbs forward along the frame, wrists locked, elbows slightly bent. No gaps, no daylight. Now pressure. I keep it consistent from the first rep to the last. If my sights jiggle when I pin the trigger, I'm over-gripping with the firing hand and dragging the gun. I fix that by letting the support hand do the heavy lifting. That's the same approach taught by top marksmanship units and LE instructors because the support hand controls muzzle rise while the firing hand stays free to run the trigger. Less flinch, cleaner break. Bet you feel the dot or front sight settle faster. Here's the quick test I ran on camera. 5 slow rounds at 7 yards. Watch the front sight or dot track straight up and back down into the notch. If it bounces diagonally, I rotate the support hand higher, lock the wrist, and add side pressure. If the gun twists on recoil, I drive my palms together harder and recheck thumb placement. Final tweak. Grip strength helps, but technique wins. I hit a simple routine off the range: rice bucket crushes, rubber grippers, and 10 dry fire draws a night. The goal is repeatability. Same hand position, same pressure, every single rep. Do that and your groups tighten, your splits shrink, and the gun starts feeling like part of you. No cap. Front sight focus that wins. Front sight wins fights with irons, period. I run my vision like this: hard focus on the front blade, soft blur on the rear, and target. That sharp front edge tells me if the sights are truly aligned, which keeps the bore on the same plane when the shot breaks. USAMU, USPSA champs, and most LE programs teach the same principle, because alignment error on irons dominates point of impact at handgun distances. If the front sight looks fuzzy, my hits open up fast. Here's how I lock it in on camera. I bring the gun to eye level, not my head to the gun. As the sights enter my vision, I snap attention to the front blade and park it dead center in the rear notch with equal height and equal light. I track it through recoil and watch it return to the notch before I press again. If the front sight bounces high right, my grip or trigger press is pushing right. If it dives left, I'm milking the grip. The front sight tells the truth. I use 2 drills that never lie. The wall drill for dry fire. Empty gun, muzzle inches from a blank wall, front sight razor sharp, slow press without any sight movement. Then live fire dots at 7 yards. 5 slow rounds on a 2 to 3 inch circle, eyes glued to the front blade. A clean circle means the focus is right. Anything egg-shaped says fix grip or trigger, running a red dot. Different rules. I keep a target focus and float the dot on what I want to hit, then watch the dot lift and settle. For dots, target focus. Bet that clarity alone tightens your groups today. Trigger press, not a yank. Trigger makes or breaks the shot, no cap. I run my finger on the pad, not the joint, so the press comes straight to the rear, in line with the bore. I stage the trigger to the wall, add smooth pressure, and let the gun fire without me snatching it. That's the same method you'll hear from USAMU instructors and most LE quals, because jerking the trigger is the #1 reason folks miss at handgun distance. I want the sights to stay honest while the trigger moves. Here's how I set it up. I take the slack out, feel the wall, then add pressure at a steady rate until it breaks. After the shot, I ride the reset forward only until I feel and hear that click, then I press again. No pinning forever. Short movement equals less sight disturbance and faster, cleaner follow-ups. Fixing anticipation is where people level up. I run ball and dummy at 7 yards with snap caps mixed into the mag. If the front sight dips on a dummy round, that's me. I pause, reset my grip, and slow the press until the front sight stays level. I also use the coin or spent casing drill in dry fire. If the coin slides off the front sight, my press isn't straight. Want numbers to chase? From low ready at 5 to 7 yards, I work for fist-sized groups with 30 to 35 splits on controlled pairs and every hit in the A-zone. I track the dot or front sight through the entire press and reset. Do this routine twice a week with 10 minutes of dry fire and one focused live session. Bet your groups tighten and your second shot lands where you actually called it. Breath, stance, and micro adjustments. Stance matters more than most people admit. I plant my feet shoulder-width apart, toes pointed slightly out, knees soft, hips squared to the threat when I want repeatable recoil recovery. I shift 60% of my weight onto the balls of my feet so I can absorb, recoil, and move. Slight forward, lean through the ankles, keeps the sights on target during follow-ups. I prefer a compact athletic posture because mobility and recoil control beat looking rigid. Breathing control is underrated. I breathe normally, exhale partially, then use the natural respiratory pause to make the press. That pause lasts a beat or two and gives my core a stable moment. I never clamp my breath because tension and tunnel vision kill fine motor control. I time the press in that window, pressing while keeping the abs braced and the shoulders relaxed. Practice this dry, and you'll stop chasing the sights when the shot breaks. Micro adjustments are how hits turn consistent into precise. I nudge the point of aim with tiny foot pushes, a millimeter of wrist rotation, and small torso shifts so the front sight or dot sits where I want it. When moving, I rehearse short steps that keep the muzzle indexed to the target. Drills I use: 1 step 2 rounds, move 2 rounds, split the target into zones, and correct with body, not wild muzzle movement. Do this, and follow-ups become predictable, not lucky. Track your times and aim points consistently every session. Fast, clean presentation from the holster. Presentation from the holster is where speed meets safety, and I treat it like a ritual. I start with a solid grip while the gun is still holstered. Index finger indexed along the frame, thumbing the retention if the holster has it. Then draw with my elbows tucked so the muzzle never points anywhere unsafe. I run the gun out on a straight line to the target and square the sights before I press. That exact sequence is what a lot of duty instructors and advanced carry classes emphasize because it cuts sloppy movement and keeps the muzzle predictable. On camera, I show the slow, controlled draw first, then build speed without sacrificing form. The goal is consistent presentation, not a wild snap that flings the muzzle or drops the grip. I use a dry fire routine where I clear the holster, present to a safe target, and index the trigger finger before reholstering. Doing that 10 times per session builds the muscle memory that separates fast and dangerous from fast and competent. Retention and holster choice matter more than people admit. A level 2 retention, or a properly fitted Kydex holster, reduces the chances of a sloppy draw and forces consistent hand placement. For appendix carry versus strong side, I adjust my torso angle and practice draws from sitting and standing. Reps from multiple positions save you in real scenarios where you are not always upright. Safety check always. Before any live fire practice, I clear the weapon, confirm the range is set, and run the exact same draw drills with an inert trainer or empty chamber. Repeatable presentation is the win. Practice that, and your first shot becomes reliable under pressure. Speed reload. That actually works. Speed reloads win strings when your gun runs dry, but executed sloppily. They just trade time for chaos. I run 2 reloads depending on the moment. The combat reload is the emergency move. Hit the mag release, let the empty mag fall, and slam a fresh one home so the gun comes back online now. The tactical reload is the conserve and retain move. You swap a partially used mag for a full one while keeping the old mag if you have the breathing room. Both are real tools taught across defensive courses. My clean combat reload goes like this on camera. Keep your firing grip, index the new mag with your support hand, press the release with your thumb or trigger finger, let the empty mag rotate out, and seat the fresh mag with a firm upward slam until it clicks. Don't hunt the mag or look down the well. Finish the drill by riding the slide or doing a press check, depending on the gun. The goal is one smooth motion: dump fast, insert fast, seat hard. Training resources and instructors stress a firm magazine seat to avoid failure to feed. For tactical reload retention tricks, I use the Clint Smith divided by gun sight style. Pinch the spent mag between thumb and index as the new mag enters, then rotate the old mag into a retention position so it's not lost. Practice this slowly until your hands never cross paths awkwardly. Practical drills. Set mags on your non-dominant side facing the same way. Practice indexing and mag orientation, and run both drills until you can do them blindfolded in dry fire. That consistency is what saves time under pressure. Always practice these with empty chambers and a range-safe protocol first. Immediate action and malfunction clearing are separate skills you must layer on top of reloads, so train both in the same session. Do this, and your reloads stop being a weak link. Malfunction clearing. When the gun hiccups, I go into immediate action first. Tap, rack, assess. I tap the mag to make sure it is seated, rack the slide hard to clear the chamber, then assess whether I'm back in business or I need to do more. That simple sequence clears most failure to fire and stovepipe-style stoppages quickly under stress, which is why it is taught across duty and defensive courses. If the slide is locked back, or I can see feed lips or a live round jammed, I escalate to remedial clearing. My go-to is to lock the slide, remove the magazine, rack the slide several times to eject anything loose, reinsert a fresh mag, and chamber a round. For a true double feed, you may need to pull the offending rounds out by hand, or use the rip, rack, reload method, then check the feed geometry before running again. Practice these steps slowly, until they are reflexive, because a bad tap and rack can make a double feed worse. Drills matter. I train with dummy rounds and induced stoppages, so my hands know which sequence to run without thinking. I also visually check the ejection port to diagnose if the problem is a failure to eject, a stovepipe, or a double feed before escalating. Do not blindly rack a gun if you suspect a high risk of a stuck round near the feed ramp. Lock the slide back first and clear methodically. These are standard practices recommended by reputable trainers and publications, so practice them dry and then live with strict safety protocols. Use cover, angles, and small movement. Move behind cover like you own the space, but never treat cover as magic. I pick hard cover when I can. Concrete, engine blocks, thick masonry, you name it, because reputable training sources point out that true cover can stop incoming rounds while concealment only hides you. When I present, I find the smallest firing line I can make and keep everything else behind the barrier. I use slicing the pie to clear angles, not to be fancy. I pivot small, take measured steps, and peel the corner in predictable slices, so I only expose a sliver of my body at any time. That method is taught in close quarters battle and defensive curricula because it reduces exposure and gives you time to identify threats before you commit to a full presentation. I practice it slowly, with an unloaded gun, until the motion is reflexive. Footwork and muzzle discipline beat speed for keeping you safe behind cover. I square my hips to the threat when I need stability, or I turn my shoulders and use a more compact stance to duck lower exposure. I also make sure my muzzle never sweeps teammates or bystanders when I slice a corner. Drills where I step, present, fire 2 rounds, and move back are staples in courses that teach shooting from cover. Low light and multiple threat scenarios change the math, so I train for them explicitly. I practice using a light from behind cover to ID targets, and rehearse moving between successive pieces of cover while maintaining sight picture. Most reputable instructors recommend layering these skills: cover selection, pie slicing, controlled presentation, and movement, then practicing them under stress to make them usable when it actually matters. Bet on the drill work and not on luck. Maintenance shortcuts. Keep the action clean and the mags healthy. My first rule is simple. Field strip and wipe the bore in action after heavy use, and at least once a month for EDC pistols. Manufacturers like Glock explicitly recommend cleaning after exposure to sweat, dirt, or moisture, and regular monthly checks if carried. Regular inspections catch worn extractors, loose pins, and gunk that turn into jams. Use the right lube, not a puddle. I run a thin film of a dedicated CLP on rails and contact points, then wipe the excess. A little goes a long way because too much oil drags carbon and grit into moving parts. Experts and CLP guides recommend light lubrication and wiping off pools of oil that attract debris. That one habit prevents sticky slides and stovepipes more than any fancy part. Magazines break more guns than barrels do, so I treat them like medical gear. I disassemble mags yearly, clean inside the tube, check feed lips and followers, and swap weak springs. Sources focused on magazine health show failures to feed are often spring or follower related. Keep spare springs in the range bag and rotate mags if you carry them loaded long term. Properly seated rounds and clean lips equal reliability. Replace, wear parts on a schedule and log it. Recoil springs and extractors take cycles. Reputable guides note spring sets and give ranges for replacement depending on material and round count. I track rounds, swap springs per manufacturer or Brownells-style guidance, and run dummy round jam drills after maintenance, so I know the gun runs before it matters. Do those 4 things, and your day at the range stops being a troubleshooting session. Practical training routine. My weekly training starts with daily dry fire. I do 10 to 15 minutes most days because short, focused reps beat long, unfocused sessions, and competitive shooters and training guides recommend this approach for skill building. I pick one objective per session, like draw and presentation, trigger reset, or a single movement drill, and I follow a strict safety ritual before every rep. Clear the weapon, remove all ammunition from the room, choose a safe backstop, and verify the empty chamber. I run targeted dry fire drills only. Wall drill forces clean sight focus, ball and dummy exposes anticipation, and slow trigger presses build a usable reset. I pair those with a laser trainer or a shot sensor to get immediate feedback on timing and muzzle movement. I use snap caps for rimfire and when simulating malfunctions. That combination gives measurable data without burning rounds. I move cleaned up dry fire skills into live fire 1 to 3 times a week, depending on goals and ammo budget. I start live sessions with slow dot drills at 7 yards, then progress to controlled pairs, reloads, and movement strings while recording group size and split times. I log reps and round counts, swap springs per manufacturer guidance, and run function checks after maintenance. Keep sessions short, specific, and repeatable, and your skill curve will climb without burning cash or building bad habits. Bet on that. Track progress weekly, adjust drills to fix the weakest link, and reward small measurable improvements consistently.